Hey everybody, welcome back to James Draws Everything, continuing our series today of drawing every country in the world's flag. Today, I'm going to go down into Southeast Asia, and we're going to be doing the island country of the Philippines. All right, so Philippines is actually a group of island countries, and just to start, does have a bit of a longer flag, so I'm just going to draw my lines out a little bit more. Yeah, and so the Philippines, kind of an interesting place. It's got a lot of different cultures and heritage, kind of mixed up throughout the years to give it its own sort of character. They were colonized by the Spanish in the 16th century. The Spanish Empire starting to take a foothold in that part of the world. And the Spanish is actually kind of where the name comes from. So the Philippines, from it's King Philip II, Philip of Castile. So Philippines, they do become a Catholic country, right? And this is as Spain is kind of exploring the entire world, at this point. And so they remain under Spanish rule. So there is a lot of, kind of Spanish influence there. A lot of Spanish, they mixed with the indigenous people that were there. So kind of creating like their own thing, the Filipino people. And when the Spanish start kind of losing their grip on their empire, like getting into the end of the 19th century, Spain as like a dominant world power is kind of long in the past by that point, and their hold on the Philippines is actually no different. But the reason for how they actually lost the Philippines is it's a bit complex. So at the beginning, or at the end actually of the 19th century, 1898, is the Spanish-American War. And that plays a big part in Filipino independence, sort of. We'll get there. But yeah, so the Americans, they actually, they ended up fighting the Spanish over an incident that happened in Cuba, right, where Spain was kind of seen as a hostile power. Remember, the main incident takes place where Spain was blamed for some explosives blowing up on a ship that was harbored near Cuba, and the Spanish were actually not responsible. But as you know, in war, that really doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is the narrative. So the Spaniards went to war with the United States, and what started out as a war to protect American interests from these evil Spanish that are blowing up our ships and whatnot and are threatening us through our Caribbean neighbors. It turned into an ideological war. So we're no longer just defending American interests. We're trying to quote unquote bring freedom and democracy to the world. And we're going to end the Spanish Empire and create, democratic republics a la the United States. So where have you heard that one before? Yeah, so that's nothing new. And yeah, so all the wars in the in U.S. history before that weren't really fought on like some kind of a ideological sort of battleground. Like we're gonna bring our form of government to you, and because we believe in these ideals and whatnot. No, they were more just like defensive wars, right? Or there was some kind of monetary or trade interest or something like that that popped things off. No, this was different. So what started off as like a little incident in the Caribbean somehow leads us halfway across the world into the Pacific Ocean, fighting to Christianize the Filipino people, which makes zero sense because they had been Christian for hundreds of years at that point, being part of the Spanish Empire, which was not a secular empire. They were deeply religious. So yeah, so the United States, quote unquote, frees the Philippines from Spanish rule. But they actually don't really take to that very well. So actually, the Filipino people end up fighting off American influence, and that mostly dies down after a couple years, but it actually continues pretty much all the way until 1913. So they did not want the Americans there. And let me see if I can find a better yellow here. I'm not liking this. Can never quite get the yellows right on these. Okay, it's a little bit better, a little bit more visible for you. It's got these little stars on the corners here. So yeah, and then the military government in the Philippines, the United States military government. That's kind of an interesting story too. William Howard Taft, future President Taft, at that point he was a military governor of the Philippines, I believe, under the Roosevelt administration. So yeah, and a lot of people that went over to the Philippines to quote unquote help them, build this republic and build their government. They were actually people from the Freedmen's Bureau, right? So the Freedmen's Bureau, post Civil War, they're trying to quote unquote educate the slaves, the freed blacks. And once you create something like this, and its mission is accomplished, it needs to find other things to do, right? And that's kind of what our founding fathers talked about, like the fear of a standing military, right? That once the quote unquote mission accomplished, it's not just going to sit by idly, right? So this is kind of one of those instances where you had all these like educators and teachers and basically just people that had cushy government jobs. They needed to find some new people to go out and educate and turn them to the American way. So the Freedmen's Bureau goes basically to the Philippines to kind of do the same thing, set up schools and all that. And that's fine if you want to do that on your own. But yeah, this becomes a massive grift because it's all done on taxpayer dollars. So kind of one of the early instances of American empire, probably the first instance if you don't want to count like the Mexican War and that. So gradually Americans, they never really fully pull out of the area, but they do relax controls a little bit. Philippines, they do get occupied by Japan during World War II, and they kind of have to fight with the United States at that point to drive the Japanese out. There's a lot of strategic significance to the Philippine Islands. If you're having a combat theater in the Pacific Ocean. So then after World War II is all said and done, 1946, the Philippines, they do achieve independence. So they've been an independent country ever since. Their government, on the other hand, the one that the United States kind of forced on them and helped them set up, it's been kind of nonstop coups, separatist movements since then. So, it's one of those examples where your Constitution is made by your people, right? There's no such thing as magic dirt. These things don't just come out of thin air. They often have to be developed over centuries and centuries of culture and tradition. But, yeah, we never really learned from that, I guess. So, yeah, they've had issues with, government instability, Islamic terror, communist insurgencies. Quieted down a little bit in recent years. It is one of the emerging markets in the world. There's a lot of potential in the Philippines. And so that's the flag. And for whatever reason, too, this part of the world, like the Philippines and Malaysia, a lot of really good artists come out of that region for whatever reason. So a lot of people I follow are from that part of the world. So if you are an artist and you're from the Philippines, drop a comment. I did do this video as a request. Somebody did request me to do the Philippines next. So there you go. And as for the flag, the blue means peace and justice. The red means courage. The sun is the 8 provinces that declared their independence from Spain. It's got 8 rays on the sun. And the stars, you got 1, 2, 3 stars. The 3 major geographic regions of the Philippines: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Okay, so the Philippines flag also, it dates all the way back to the Spanish-American War. It dates back to 1897. So there you go. Taught you a little something on the Philippines. So that's the Philippines flag. Let me know what you think. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you on the next video.